Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Hamer. This is where we go beyond the headlines and get into how great retailers and tech innovators really think, from trading to teams to business building to tech, loyalty, and data. Every Monday afternoon, I talk to the people building, running, and reinventing retail, unpacking what's working, what's changing, and what's next. If you care about the detail of retail, you're in the right place. I am joined by Cas Paton, CEO of OnBuy and Comet. Welcome, Cas.
Thank you. I really appreciate coming. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. If you had to pitch OnBuy to a 10-year-old in one sentence, how would you do that?
A marketplace with a lot of products that you might like to buy.
Cool. And how about if you had to pitch your former self on starting on?
Oh, I would say it's going to be a harder road than you think it's going to be.
Okay. But worth it?
Oh, no, great. I would have said continue, keep going, but don't be as overly naive as you might be when you sat. It's like any idea when you sit down and think,
Yeah.
hey, we can do this. I've got a cracking idea, and the road of how to pull it together and make it work seems maybe a lot easier than you think it's gonna be. Or yeah, I don't know. No, maybe you could have guided yourself a bit better on that one. And I think as you mature and you get older as well. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a while. You start to realize that everything that you take on is probably going to be slightly more complicated than you first think.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously almost become one of Europe's fastest growing companies. What was the moment that it hit you how big this is getting?
Well, it's quite funny when we first started the business because it was a team of us from an old company. We set it up as a bit of a side project. We said, "Oh, well, we'll see how this goes," and then it started to look a lot harder than than we first thought it might be. And we thought, we need to give this a really good go. And we started going. I remember thinking, once we get to £1 million per year in sales, we've really cracked something here, and we've started to make something quite interesting. And the wake up moment was when we got to £1 million a year. It only took us a really short period of time from £1 million a year to £50 million a year, and I think that's when we started to realize that we were really onto something. But we also started to realize it started to outpace, what we originally had structured for, even. And the company just kept climbing. And with that came challenges and all kinds of things that we had to deal with. Um, I think when you own a business and you think, oh, wouldn't it be fantastic if we were doing £100 million a year? The reality of doing £100 million a year and having the infrastructure, you can see why a lot of companies take time to mature and put those things in place. And actually, we almost feel we were almost envious of companies that had time to do that. I was joking with someone yesterday how things move so quickly. We outgrew our office like 3 consecutive times in a 9-month period. It was absolute carnage. So yeah, I think that realization from getting to that million and then flying to 50 was like eye-opening, to be honest.
Yeah, and obviously it's nice if you can take your time and build the infrastructure and make sure you're completely ready. But what are the big advantages been of building the plane as you're flying it?
I think it's never been a dull day. I think I'm certainly someone who likes to move at pace anyway and get things moving. So I think if I had a very slow building company over a long period of time, I'd probably be a little bit bored. That's not really who I am. I've always said that, the future of OnBuy will be quite interesting because I imagine there will be in the future some sort of exit or merger with some other company that maybe is much better placed to take the slower strategic growth angles at the right time. Where I play is in opening up the opportunities, moving at speed, trying to unlock value quickly. And I think we're only just on the ground floor. We've only just opened some of those opportunities, and I think there's still so much more to play for. And my involvement in this business will be until I feel that we can't move at that pace and that speed. Once we're protecting and ring fencing and circling around profit, and the growth and the exciting chapters are moving away, that's probably not
Yeah.
not my era, my chapter. It might change. So right now, I think being on the ground floor and driving it and being on that airplane as you say, as you're trying to fly, that's where I thrive. I thrive in the environments where you're trying to make the right decisions quickly, high pressure, high stakes. That's where I want to play.
So Cas Paton is a scale-up founder, not so much a Fortune 500 shareholder return CEO.
I mean, you never know. I'm getting older. Things change. I learn more about myself every year, and as the
Yeah.
company evolves. But right now, I'm loving the passion and the speed of execution, the challenges, sleep deprivation that comes with it, and everything else. But it's a huge opportunity, and we don't do things by half measures. I'm sure you're going
Mm.
to touch on it, but when we're right in the middle of rolling out international at the moment, and it's still in beta, but I pinch myself sometimes. We've switched on a beta site in 12 countries. It's not formally launched. We haven't started marketing it to local retailers yet, and there's so many other things we haven't done yet. We're still rolling out APMs, additional payment methods. But we grew a company that had no products whatsoever on it in January. And by
Mm.
September, it's already doing, 30, 40 million in sales run rate. And
Wow.
that's insane. I think back to when we were targeting that first million and how it took us the best part of 18, 24 months to figure out the infrastructure, get the product where it needed to be. And that was after a couple of years building the technology. So it was a really slow road in the first few years, um, getting the infrastructure right, making sure you've got the platform, and then switching on our beta sites in Europe and Europe only, and growing them to 30, 40 million straight away, before we've even officially launched. And it's really exciting stuff, and it's great to be on that plane.
Awesome. We'll come back to OnBuy and your phenomenal growth in a second. Just on you, Cas, you've called your career fast-paced, ever dynamic, but what's been the biggest curveball so far?
Oh, there's been plenty of curveballs. So many. I think, when we first started, we thought we had the infrastructure that would take us to a certain level. We outgrew that level. Re-engineering, moving to what we in our world we call merchant of record, actually processing payments. We used to use more of a marketplace payment model, and re-engineering to that merchant of record was a hellish project that took a
Mm.
year and slowed and stinted our opportunity to grow. Huge re-engineering, huge transformation as a business. But we did that. It's done. It was a couple of years behind us now, but a huge uh, bottleneck. COVID was a problem. I think, people say, oh, COVID was great for e-commerce, and don't get me wrong, there are definitely positives to come out of the fact that people can only order online. But there's certainly a lot of negatives to come out of it. I think short term, in terms of catering, coping with that increased volume, as well as obviously
Mm.
naturally everyone trying to change the way they work and work from home, and all of these new things that hit at the same time. That's the obvious one, but I think the secondary one is these huge growths that you achieve in those markets you cater for, and then when the shops reopen, you can't necessarily hold on to the same
Mhm.
rate, and the optics and the market challenges that come with that. Look at the investment markets in the past 3 years. It's gone from um, people being able to seek investment in growth businesses to actually, you can only raise money in profitable businesses, and everything's shifted. Constant readaptation and change. I think that this era that we're in, especially the past 4 years, um, more change, and you just have to be so fluid and agile in your approach, because everything you think one year is changing for the next. You sprinkle
Mm.
a drop of Brexit on top of it, and or some US tax challenges, let's say, with duty changes and everything else. You are constantly at battle with change,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's there's never a dull month without another challenge. Even in the UK with marketplace regulation, or
Mm.
everything that's trying to catch the overseas big boys, let's say, we get caught in the same challenges. We get caught in the same pot. So a lot of challenges along the way. And I think naming just one, I mean, I've named Merchant of Record, but even re-engineering for international, and some of those challenges. And I think really dealing with the market shifts, sentiment shifts in terms of what what people want to invest in, what people want to buy. e-commerce isn't sexy at the moment. That's fascinating to me. Yeah, AI is the big buzzword, and it's just a constant adaptation in terms of how do we remain relevant and how do we keep up the growth and remain attractive to the market. 'Cause fundamentally, we want to be a business. We do want to do an exit in a few years' time, aiming for sort of 4 or 5 years. So it's business is fun, but there's always twists and
Yeah.
turns.
Okay. And how do you help an organization that's growing as fast as OnBuy to stay agile and stay true to your roots as a fast moving business?
Avoid layering, right? I mean, you
Mm,
have to avoid layering. We try and keep the business as flat as possible. Some areas it's a little bit harder, but you've got to stay connected. Empower people to make the right decisions. Put the right leadership team in place to make sure that not all rested on one person, but the influence is ingested into a leadership team, I think, and then you can transform a business from you know the right leadership team and being agile. I think there's no script anymore. I think every business is different, and if you'd have read like if when in school or university or wherever you read a book on business and how businesses are run and everything else, all that stuff's out the window in my opinion. I mean, there's some core
yeah.
principles of operating a business and finance and and everything else, but the actually running a business in 2025, I mean, there is just so much change. I mean, I've touched on AI. I mean, how much has AI changed everything in the past few years? And if you're already an existing business or a scale up or startup or wherever you are, just adopting and adapting for change and adopting AI or whatever is new or whatever is sexy and how you can grow your business leveraging what's hot and what's changing keeps you on your toes. And this is definitely not for the faint-hearted because people joke all the time that it would be much easier to go and get a corporate job, but I think
Yeah.
that there's nothing like a startup or a scale up, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not going to get that from an MBA.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, um, I've already seen from our interactions, you communicate directly, you act quickly, you're decisive, you move fast, and you err on the side of rationality. Is that all positive, or is that a double-edged sword?
No, I mean, there's always going to be risks. I mean, it's like anything we do in business, we have to look at 80/20. I think, we've got to get 80% of the value for 20% of the effort is one way to look at it. Or sometimes you've got to go, I can get 80% of efficiencies, and I have to give up on the 20. And I think when you're moving at pace like this, um, you get 80% of it right and 20% of it wrong. Trying to optimize that to be 90/10 or whatever. I mean, obviously that's good, but you can't do everything at speed and not have consequences along the way. That's just natural. And we've built the right processes, sign-off procedures, quick fire leadership discussions, board processes to make sure that decisions can be made quickly and we mitigate the risk of making those quick decisions. So, yeah, we do have to be quick. We do have to think on our feet. And we do have to have the right OKRs and structures and targets in the business to go, does this opportunity or this thing or whatever it is we're doing align to what we've agreed that we're going to do in this period? That helps you funnel the noise and focus the energy. And I think if we go back to when we first started the business and not really knowing what was around the corner, our goal was to build a good business, a good platform. When you're into operating a scale up, things kind of change and you go, okay, what do I want in the next 3 years? What's the goal for the next 3 years? I think you have your eye on the vision, which is 10, 15, an eye on a vision, just a one or two liner. What do we want to be? And you have your 3 year, what puts me in line with that vision in 3 years? Where or four, where do I want to be in 3 or 4 years in line with that vision? And then you pull it back to quarters. What do I want to do in the next quarter that aligns to achieving that 3, 4 year goal? And once you've modeled that out, and you obviously have to review it every single quarter, and there's variable change, which makes everything difficult. But once you've done that, you can stay true to your goals because you can say, if someone rings you and says, "Hey, I've got a great opportunity for you," I've got to go. I've got to be relentless in my execution to go, does this align with what we need to do now to hit that 3, 4 year goal? Otherwise, you're going to get lost on the way, especially when you're moving quickly. Because if you grab every opportunity, you're going to drown in them. Nothing's going to move forward. Everything's going to stagnate. It doesn't work. And I think it's this relentless execution and relentless prioritization that has enabled OnBuy to grow so quickly. And sometimes that means turning away things that could be profitable opportunities or cost saving opportunities or whatever it is. But as long as we feel that we're in line with our direction of travel, the agreed vision, then we're doing the right thing. And that's how you try and avoid mistakes or distractions, relentless execution. And when I do interviews now and I'm speaking to someone I'm bringing in at a leadership level, it's all around execution, questions around prioritization and execution, because there's nothing like this environment and you can drown. There's 10,001 things you could do. What should you do? That's the puzzle, right? That's the puzzle. That's the game. And that's where I think that I thrive, and I think it's where my leadership team thrive. Being able to be brutal in some of those decisions, and sometimes you're saying them while gritting your teeth because you think this is a great thing, but I have to remain true to our direction of travel. And if we feel this thing is really something that we want to take on, whatever it might be, it's got to be in that plan. And that's why you got to regroup every quarter, you got to regroup every year, and you've got to make sure you're on that right track and in line with where the market's going. Yeah, I use the term variable change quite a lot because we have to just sometimes pivot, change, move. Everything shifted. Take Brexit. I mean, everything shifted. Take Donald Trump's trade tariffs. Everything shifted. So you can't just do what maybe you were doing yesterday, and it makes for a minefield in the digital space, I think.
And what are you able to share the latest 3-year goal and North Star metrics and how you're doing against those?
I mean, there's some stuff we don't talk about. The long-term strategy we don't want our competitors to know. But I mean, fundamentally, our vision is to be the best choice for every customer everywhere. Fundamentally, that strapline, that vision, says everything about what we're doing. It'd be the best choice for every customer everywhere. It's choice, it's range, it's pricing. It's trying to give customers everything everywhere. This notion of a global marketplace, which we're well on track with executing, albeit somewhat behind schedule, given we planned on our first EU launch prior to Brexit, and obviously everything went out the window, and everything was that little bit more complicated, and we wanted the dust to settle, so we focused on the UK. But that's the North Star, and the vision of the company. What we then do is go, where do we want to be in 3-4 years to say that we're making a dent on this overall plan, and obviously throw some financial metrics in there, throw some opportunities. I think it's safe to say, and we've said elsewhere, we want to be a multi-billion-pound company by 2030, and that is a goal that we really aspire to achieve. And everything we're doing right now lays the foundation for that. And I think the next 4 years are going to be interesting as we scale out. We've got 12 countries out now in beta. We've got 6 countries launching next week. We've got another 2 countries launching in about 3 weeks' time. That will seal our European launch with 21, including the UK. And we're going to go for the United States in 2026. So we're going to slow down slightly because we need to activate the countries we've already launched. We're doing 40 million across them, but that is literally just scratching the surface. It's not even scratching the surface. We think that Europe is going to overtake the UK by the end of next year, and that is a huge opportunity for us. Bear in mind the UK is growing as well, so our goal is to get to that £1 billion mark as fast as we can, and we think we can do it in the next few years.
Awesome. Slowing down by just launching the US next year.
Yeah. Essentially, we want to turn next year into a 80% focus on activation and 20% on footprint. So the US is a very important one for us. Most of the value will probably kick in late 26, 27. But we have so much opportunity in Europe, across the Nordics, especially where we're invested. State of Norway invested in OnBuy through Poston. Really, really exciting opportunities in the Nordics, growing quickly. Germany, Netherlands, bringing online France, Italy, Spain, and next week we're launching into our beta launches into Switzerland, Poland. Really exciting time, Sweden as well. So, the huge opportunities, and getting the right team around those opportunities to make sure they're maximized, as well as making sure we don't cannibalize UK activation and growth because that's our core market. So we're building out the right team. We've got a few hires at the moment into our team underway, and bringing some really exciting people to the business from backgrounds that have operated in the space. Let's say it's a really exciting time for the business, and I think that we can do it. And I'm very confident that even though the past 12 months might have not been the growth rate we wanted, because
Mhm.
we've been investing in technology and everything else, it's now we're moving to this stage of activation, and this is where the growth comes. You got to lay the foundation sometimes to get back on track. So we went through crazy growth period, steady growth period, and now we're entering the realm of switching the crazy back on.
Okay. Looking forward to seeing the crazy. So, you mentioned the customer being at the heart of what you do, and wanting to be the choice for customers, and for them to have the biggest range of purchasing what they need. What are some things you've done recently to prove that the customer is at the heart of everything you do?
Yeah, our cashback proposition, right? I mean, we're the first marketplace to deploy cashback across our whole ecosystem. It's part of our core
Hmm.
proposition, and we do a lot for our existing customers to offer increased cashback rates for shopping with OnBuy. We're about to start doing quite a bit more in this space. We've been running some tests. We're ready to deploy some changes. Next couple of months, we'll see us launch cashback further benefits to our customers. So, our site's built on the principle everyone gets 1% cashback anyway, but our emails and our touch points deliver crazy levels, up to 15, 18, sometimes 20% cashback and
Yeah.
above sometimes if it's promotional periods on purchases. So we're trying to disrupt through giving value to customers. And we invest very aggressively in delivering value to customers, and we want to keep that going. Our European launch is just about to launch cashback promotions as well after a really successful trial. Um, yeah, we see that while some companies are investing very aggressively in logistics and distribution, we're
Mm.
going towards customer value and proposition.
Mhm.
What can we do to make a customer want to check on buy before they proceed to their basket? And it's really exciting. It's really new to the market. Everyone's trying to touch that space, but we offer cashback that's delivered to a customer immediately. So the second they place an order, cashback's actually available to spend immediately. There's no waiting periods or 90-day cool off or all the things that your top cashback shows. We don't have those problems, and that's great for a customer. That's exciting, and it's really working. And I think we got millions of pounds worth of cashback in circulation right now. So
Yeah.
it's really starting to lift off with the customer.
Yeah. So cashback sounds super simple, but the psychology behind it is really powerful. So, what have you noticed about how shoppers behave when cashback's built in an instant?
Yeah, it depends. Depends on the market, depends on the product, depends on the price
Mm.
of the product, rates of cashback. They all have varying impacts. Generally speaking, if you've got a good enough cashback rate, you get increased conversion from the customer, better retention. Obviously, it costs the business money, so we have to do a lot of assessments in this
Mm.
space. But the goal here is to build or make OnBuy synonymous with value, and it's agnostic value in terms of, look, we're not saying just come and buy this thing that's on offer. We're saying use your cashback to buy whatever you want and get more of it, and therefore keeping choice at the heart of the customer rather than steering direction of purchase. Um, it's been very well received, and it's growing. And I think now it's the case of looking at how we deploy cashback to our customers in a stronger, more targeted way that we can give some certain customers higher rates for their behavior.
Mhm.
Um, and that's exciting. So we've been trialing a lot of stuff, got a lot of tests out there, UK and in our Beta Europe sites, and we're just rolling into a second phase of cashback as we speak. So yeah, really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, I know AI has been a pillar of your business growth. You've saved 4 million and categorized 20 million SKUs more accurately using AI. But is that part of the cashback philosophy as well? Are you analyzing how that influences shopper behavior?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that AI is a key part of cashback. Obviously, it plays a role in analyzing behaviors and how we might shape the product of cashback. To us, AI is being used in lots of other areas. But of course, all of our analysis and our we use AI at the heart of the business, so to sense check business decisions, logic, calculations, segmentation. There's a standard now. I think every business is hopefully using AI in every corner. But to use deep AI like we do in categorization, I mean, we've got a number of AI projects on by. AI is definitely helping us move faster in certain areas. Cashback really only in terms of shaping the product delivery, but then and the segmentation of our marketing. So definitely involved, but the actual product of cashback is one that lots of different tests, because theory and in practice there's sometimes quite a big divide, and the only way to get the value in it for the business and for the customers to run lots of tests and understand what do customers respond to, what makes them shop more, what makes them want to spend more, how much cashback really matters to a customer, all of these questions, as well as what's affordable and how do we break that into the commercial model of the business. That's unfortunately takes a lot of tests and a lot of trials, a lot of learning, and then your AI and your analysts and your data scientists can run through all of those learnings, all of that data, and try and cut where the right cashback product is, or whatever. Just like any business, I imagine, doing any kind of proposition or trying to understand where they should spend money.
And do some categories lend themselves to cashback better? Are there quirky categories that have taken off on OnBuy better than they have anywhere else?
I mean, you're naturally going to see, I don't think it's necessarily categories, but you're naturally going to see behavioral shifts depending on the level of cashback, right? If you're buying a £10 washing detergent and we give you 10 pence cashback, I'm not sure that's really going to shape your buying future, and you're going to align your whole e-commerce allegiance to OnBuy. It's not going to happen, right? But if you're buying I don't know, a £500 product and we've got a promotion on that gives you £50 cashback or £25 cashback or even £10 cashback,
Yeah.
and for that matter even £5 cashback, it can be enough to have a customer say, well, I've got £5 in my account, I'm not going to leave that £5, it's mine, I can spend it on something else. There's no commitment to spend more than £5 to get it. You could spend just £5 and get something for free. So it's real money, or you can wait 30 days and take it to your bank account. So it's very, very tangible.
Yeah.
Obviously, the engagement rates of cashback are going to vary depending on the user's behavior, what they bought, and how much cashback they were given, and what promotion you came in. If you bought that £10 example, but you had a 20% cashback on it, it was £2. Maybe that's enough for you to think, well, I'm not going to give up on my £2. I've got my email saying I've got £2. I'll buy I'll remember to buy my washing tablets there next time and use the
Yeah.
£2 to drop it to 8, or so there's a lot of different psychology plays here depending on the type of customer. Is it a customer that likes to spend their cash back and reduce the cost of the purchase every single time they buy it? Is it a customer that likes to save, like people
Yeah.
do with their Boots rewards or whatever, and then use it at a certain period? Do they want to withdraw it? So for us, it's about segmenting the behavior and understanding the different behaviors, and leveraging cashback to give customers a value that matters to them, whether it's reducing the cost of a product or banking the cash, um, in a way that's commercially viable for us and delivers commercial value for the business. It has to. We're not a charity. We're not just throwing cashback out there to say thank you. We're throwing it out there to change users' perception of the brand and to align themselves with it and think maybe, well, next time I'm shopping, I will I will check on buy because I've got cashback or I get cashback or whatever the psychology is. So same as any business that's doing loyalty points or discounting or whatever it might be. A lot of businesses are going down the whole subscription route now. You've got Amazon doing Prime, obviously, for delivery, but you've got AO trying to do the same thing, and lots of businesses touching on that kind of model. Our model is one that we give essentially for free. There's no cost to being a cashback customer on buy. So for us, it's a case of trying to understand the economic impact and the commercial impact and where the value sits for us and the customer.
Guys, can we pretend I'm a seller interested in listing on OnBuy? Let's say here in the UK for now, but then also Europe potentially over time. Pitch me.
Yeah, well, I mean, pitchy. It depends on the type of seller you are, but in a
Okay.
nutshell, if we're going to generalize, um, incrementality. What do sellers want more than anything else is to sell products, right? That's number one. There are obviously edge cases in terms of the reason I said it depends on the type of seller. If they're a premium brand, then sometimes it's more than just selling products. It's about how things are presented and other considerations. But generally speaking, sellers want to sell more things, and OnBuy offers incrementality. That's the main play here, is that we have an enormous number of customers. We're touching on an email marketing size now of around 10 million, which is a huge number of customers who value our proposition, being a fair and transparent marketplace. We don't retail products. We don't compete with our sellers. We are a genuine 3PL, third party marketplace where sellers can come create their inventory and get in front of an army of customers that are shopping with us every single day. We have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of visitors every single day. Um, it is a place you can sell more product. And I think it's a no-brainer for sellers to sell on OnBuy as an additional channel. The fact that we don't compete with sellers and we're not manufacturing our own products or stocking our own products means that sellers don't have to live in the fear that we're going to take their learnings and shape those learnings to shape our retail play. But at the same time, so that separates us from the Amazon model. But I think what's fascinating is on the eBay model, for example, we don't allow individual customers to sell products on OnBuy. We don't engage in the used product space. You can't sell used products on OnBuy. So we sit somewhere between these two platforms, delivering the value we feel is right for the sellers so that we can deliver the right value to customers, sprinkling cashback on our proposition in front of the customer to lure customers in, which is out of our margin. Fundamentally, that's a huge opportunity for sellers to get in front of this huge and growing customer base, generate more incremental sales. And we generally, as a business, we compete with quite a lot of the large retailers and supermarkets. So we're not necessarily taking customers just from Amazon and sticking them into OnBuy. And that's a question our sellers ask us a lot. Am I just going to lose a few sales on one channel to get them on another? And no, it's genuinely incremental. We have active customer bases looking for things right now, and if you're not there, they can't buy from you. And I think that's the key message. So yeah, it's a really interesting play. And in terms of product count, the business is growing tremendously. We at the moment, 90 days ago, we sat at around 16 million products. And today in the UK, we sit at somewhere around 24, 25 million products. Across Europe, we sit somewhere around 65 million products today, and we expect that to go to about 100 million over the next 3 months. So there's a huge growth trajectory of the business in terms of range. And yeah, it's a brilliant time to sell with OnBuy. We're activating sellers faster. We're activating more range faster. We're growing in the UK. We're growing in Europe. And if you have a play that you want to sell overseas, if the sellers we're talking to sell into Europe, EU or wider, OnBuy is a really simple channel to connect to, and you can tap into a huge volume of countries that we're deploying our growth strategy in right now.
So, Kez, if I've got that math right, you expect to 8x your SKU count versus where it was 90 days ago by next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that something that technology is only recently allowed to be possible?
No, I think we actually were one slightly higher products, but they were lower quality products. A lot of aggregation has happened in terms of merging and removal, but no, not just technology. I think that this is also, we've allowed the floodgates to open for the first time in a long time, because our systems and our activation systems in terms of getting products in front of customers, they're evolving very quickly. Activation is a big problem for a marketplace, because if you imagine you browse to, I don't know, headphones as a category. Well, we're only going to show you 60 headphones, right? There's the first 60, and then there's page 2, page 3. I mean, that's just natural on any e-commerce platform. So if a seller comes in and lists a brand new set of headphones on OnBuy today, what how do we get it in front of a customer? Because naturally, we're inclined to load the 60 headphones that sell on the platform. We're going to show rank the best sellers, the fastest movers. You come with the best selling thing from the market, and OnBuy is not necessarily going to put that best selling thing in front of a customer traditionally, because just like Amazon, we're not going to do it. Now, what Amazon does is it goes, no, I'm not going to put your product in front of the customer. I'm going to give you the opportunity to run ads to get it in front of the customer. And that's how you activate your listings, get some rank, and then you earn a position. Sellers know this is BAU. And for OnBuy, it's a case of trying to tweak our algorithms to look at propensity, trying to understand market demand, and ingest external data to go, actually, we've got a product here that should and could sell. And we've been doing a lot of that. And getting that right means that not only do we grow and put better things in front of customers, but it also means that sellers get faster activation. Of
Yeah.
course, we still do ads. Of course, we still do placement. Sellers can invest in putting their products in front of customers and should do to activate products. But the fact that we can activate faster and use technology to mitigate some of the traditional challenges there, it means that we can allow more products on and be smarter with product selection and be personalized with product selection as well. Jamie, why should you get the same product as someone else? And I think that that's the place that we're really playing in right now. If we know a
Yeah.
little bit about you, then should you get the same 60 headphones when you go into the headphones category? It's a really interesting question. If we know that you're quite masculine, you buy dark blue, black products, we know a little bit about you, then why are we putting children's pink headphones in front of you? It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
there's obviously, unless you're going to search for it, customize your behavior. And the fact that we're getting some of that right now, and we're really starting to see and reap the rewards of that as we scale, particularly into early 26, where we expect to deploy quite a lot of wins in that space. More products are welcome because we're not limited to that 60 product window anymore. We're saying, well, actually, that's variable. We can do more with that. And yeah, and that's starting to reap the rewards in terms of growth, seller attrition. We're seeing sellers sell things faster and not want to leave the platform because it's slow growth,
Mm.
as well as offering those activation opportunities to launch ads and everything else. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It's
Yeah.
fast growth.
So I, as a seller, should list on OnBuy because there's great opportunity. Your growth, and you're looking to grow SKU count right now. So you're taking on new partners. You're fairer in terms of the way you display products. You keep people on the platform, and it's going to be completely incremental. And you're offering European opportunities to brands who aren't currently selling in Europe to do that through the OnBuy platform, and that's going to grow fast.
Absolutely.
Cool. Tell me about the Comet acquisition. I'd love to hear. Is there anything behind the scenes you can tell us about how that all went down and what the key milestones were? And was it
Well,
fun?
it was fun. We've been in the market to buy a brand, and we're still in the market to buy brands now. I mean, if you remember the news, I don't know if you noticed, but we actually were the lead bidder on Wilco as a brand. We almost won it, but sadly lost out on the 11th hour, which was unfortunate given that our offer for Wilco was the largest offer on the table. But hey, yeah, we're not gonna lose sleep over it. Comet presented itself as an opportunity because we were familiar with the Comet brand. Everyone's familiar with the Comet brand. I
Yeah.
knew the company that had bought the Comet brand. And they had not got round to doing much with it, to be frank. And I think we saw that there was definitely an opportunity to do something. We bought Comet to be a separate entity to OnBuy, but to give our sellers opportunity. Comet is definitely going to sit outside of OnBuy as a proposition, but it's connected and it allows OnBuy sellers to access the Comet platform when it launches. That is a huge opportunity, and Comet will get it's got its own team. Comet will have its own budget. Comet will have its own marketing, and it will have its own play in the market and its own sellers, as well as feeding in OnBuy's supply. So it connects and it
Mm.
gives our on sellers value and opportunity to reach customers like never before. It also gives OnBuy a proof of concept that we can trade our business under multiple hats, not just in the UK, but we can do so globally. It also gives us some really interesting insight as to whether a household name is delivers some benefits we don't get in OnBuy, that it maybe doesn't have the same household name yet. So yeah, it's a really fascinating opportunity. It popped up, and we thought, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's take this leap. Um, and it will launch in Q4 this year as its first version, and it will iterate all the way into 2026 with enhancements. It's an exciting business, but it does live outside the core OnBuy business.
Fascinating. And what was there a moment when you felt like this was going to be real? How did buying on buy feel?
Comet.
So comment, sorry.
Um,
Yeah. Quite.
yeah, yeah, no, it was yeah, it was fascinating. Yeah, I wrote on LinkedIn as a kid, being
Yeah.
part of Comet. Everyone was part of Comet. You wanted something new in your home, it was Comet. There was no internet really then, and
Mm.
in the late 90s and even into the early 2000s. In fact, I remember leaving when I was in the Royal Navy and went to university as a bit of a mature student after. Um, I remember going to Comet to buy a few bits and pieces I needed after leaving the Navy, even, and that was 2006 yeah, it was still a thing and quite a thing. And you know, to watch Comet disappear, just I think was a really sad state for
Mm.
UK
Yeah.
retail. I'm really pleased to be part of the journey of bringing Comet back. Yeah, really, really pleased to do that. And who knows where that road's going to lead. But we're very confident. We're very positive. And yeah, I think it's about time, to be honest. There's not a great deal of credible choice for electronic brands online anymore. And without
Mm.
naming names, there's a few companies that have done very well out of the fact that they almost have, I wouldn't say monopolized, but that there's only a select few places to buy premium brands from. And Comet is
Yeah.
coming out there to challenge the status quo that's become, a 12, 13-year dominance.
Yeah. I mean, there is an argument that UK electronics is a fairly brutal category, right? You've got quite a lot of US and Asian brands looking at this as a easier market than the US, or wanting to come over here as a test for Europe. What gives you the confidence that UK electronics you can win with Comet?
No, a lot of different things. Maybe my personality, but no, that'll be a good starting point. I see Comet as a huge and important play. I think buying a brand that, albeit is aged and has been offline for a while, is still very much synonymous in over 25 UK adults. I think
Mhm.
you're tapping into a trust element, and we've essentially bought the Comet brand to revive that trust and to build on where Comet left off. Comet wasn't particularly synonymous with online e-commerce. It was more retail, but I think we can carry that. It's a modern world. I really believe that a mix of the previous trust, the credible brand, along with our experience in activation and marketplace, with the dash of some key people who have come from the industry, um, Comet could be will be a very exciting business by the end of 2026. I think it'll be an exciting business by the end of 2025, personally. But I think for the market, end of 2026 is where I think we will have solidified all of our short-term vision for Comet. Um, it's nice to bring something with such a history back to the UK space.
So when will we be able to shop for our electronics on Comet?
Q4, no specific date on yet, but Q4
Uh,
some point. Being honest, some point in October.
Magic one time. If you could fix one big challenge right now for OnBuy or Comet overnight, what would it be?
Oh, I mean, if I had a magic wand and you give me free reign, I would standardize global tax and compliance so that I can launch in every country at once. But I mean, that is
That is an awesome
that.
dream. And,
You know,
and
I think.
plug sockets and
Yeah.
currency while you're at
I think yeah, we can just sort out voltage and plug sockets and tax compliance, GDPR, GPSR, EPR, all of that. I just wound it all into one global scheme. That would be helpful. No, I think we don't we don't have huge problems that aren't already being addressed or being addressed in the core business, but in the vision where we say everywhere. If we go back to the Brexit days, that was almost easily achieved.
Mm.
It was very almost easily achieved. Everyone had a standardized way of doing something, and that was exciting. Now, obviously, in a post-Brexit world, it's not been quite that. Luckily, there's still quite a lot of trade agreements, and there's still a lot of common behavior across Europe. So we found a way to launch into the EU quite aggressively, and we've just moved out of the EU into wider Europe. Um, that's great. USA is underway. USA isn't a simple country to launch a business in. I can't. It's almost funny when you look at Europe and how genuinely independent countries have found a way to standardize the way that they trade,
Yeah.
with some caveats, obviously, but generally speaking, standardized. You look at the United States, haven't even standardized the way they work across their states. So it's a fascinating, challenging place to launch. And it's no wonder there's not that many national United States businesses, even in the United States. It's a
Hmm.
it's a fascinating, fascinating market. And that's going to be a big one for us next year. I think those problems that we see as opportunities, OnBuy doesn't cater for that today. We have to solve that challenge. We have to solve the way tax or compliance is done in each market that we choose to trade in. Um, that's what's going to slow us down with the everywhere part of our vision. We say
Hmm.
everywhere. I mean, goodness, could you imagine some of the compliance in emerging growth countries,
Yeah.
and some of the rules and things that you have to jump through, even in countries you might think are now much more modernized, they're still quite often operating interesting systems. I mean, even in the EU, if you look at Greece, for example, Greece customers, we've got a load of customers sticking products in baskets, getting to checkout. They get to the point they're making a payment. They want to pay by cash.
Mm.
And that's the EU. When you go wider than the EU and start to look into emerging markets, hit Asia, for example, some Asian countries are the same. Middle East, some Middle Eastern countries are the same. They want to pay the delivery driver that turns up with the parcel. Um, that is to us in the leaders of the technological advances in e-commerce and payments. That's almost unbelievable. That this is where things get complicated. Sprinkle on compliance and what can and can't be sold in a country. You list a certain category in one country, you've broken the law. And you've broken it
Oh.
in a way that's quite significant. Even things that are legal in the UK.
Mm.
And and vice versa. There's products in Portugal that can't be sold in the UK. They fall under our veterinary scheme.
Mm.
They don't.
Yeah.
There's different levels of medication, different levels of ingredients. How do you manage that? How do you make sure the seller doesn't do that? How do you build those controls? And then, that might be easy to understand in some categories. There are other categories you just can't sell. You move over to the Middle East and you sell alcohol, or you decide to sell, in the adult categories on OnBuy, no, that's a criminal offense, even to list them. So getting the compliance, infrastructure, tax, right across all these countries, even countries close to home like the EU and even the United States, there are massive differences that can lead a business like OnBuy into hot water, and it's important that we get the right infrastructure, risk mitigation, catalog, tax setup. It is very much a minefield, more than people realize that it is. And I wish I had a magic wand for that.
Yeah, fair enough. But in the meantime, you're finding a way to do that, to mitigate that risk, to get your catalog right, get the compliance right, to get the delivery, to get the payments right in 21 countries at once, plus the US next year.
Yep. And that's why,
Solid.
it's been one heck of a year, 18-month investment in infrastructure, process, compliance, launching countries. People are like, oh, can't you just stick the products on? No, it's not that simple. On top of your obvious language, currency, seller, delivery location challenges, um, it's way more complicated than that. That's a great opportunity for us.
Yeah. No, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love it. We thrive off it. We thrive off the challenge. We're definitely not a company where someone says, "Oh, we can't do this because of this." We say, "Because of this, we have a challenge. We need to figure out how to navigate." We're basically problem solvers every day. That's what we do. We solve problems every single day.
Yes. I'm going to ask the questions we asked to every guest. What, you chose to go into retail, you could have gone into a number of different industries or categories. What detail of retail attracted you, and what do you like the most?
I think it's very close to home. It's everyone, it's everything. We we are at the center of consumer demand. Everything we sell, everybody buy. It's for me, when we took the decision, we had a few routes that we could have taken at the start of launching OnBuy, and the idea to go into consumer B2C space meant that we're playing at the heart and minds of everyone. Part of our vision. It's everything. And I just think for us, it meant that it was very rewarding. It was very impactful. It's something that you can clearly, it's a big market. And it's a growing and emerging market, particularly in the e-com space internationally, where retail still dominates in some countries and it's changing over time. Marketplace in some countries is still unknown, believe it or not. To us, we're so far ahead, we think that couldn't be possible, and it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Amazon doesn't operate in every country on earth, and that's a really fascinating point. So for us, we launched UK as a proof point, really. When we set the business out, we said, let's do it. We felt that we could prove it. And I think we have proven that we can really take a chunk out of a market. And that's because retail is every day. It's everyone, it's everything. And yeah, I've really enjoyed being growing a retail brand. I think it's fascinating.
And we touched on a few, but what detail of retail would you most want to change?
My previous answer probably stands out. If we're thinking globally, it's tackling those challenges. It's really much harder than it should be. If we're thinking more nationally in terms of the UK, I think that there's still quite a bit of monopolization going on across key brands and key markets, but key outlets for brands. Don't think consumers realize that brands are doing a lot to protect themselves from marketplace and protect margin erosion, which is understandable on one hand, but consumer value suffers on the other. Then you've only got a handful of sites actually selling a particular brand that people can't get anywhere else, and that is to me, that's the definition of a monopoly. And I think we need to open up products to customers, and we need customers to be able to seek value. I think there's this notion that by protecting a brand across 2 or 3 key sites that can sell that brand, the full RRP obviously protects the brand, but it certainly doesn't protect the consumer. And I think brands are starting to realize that over time, as more brands warm up to the notion of selling in more places, even if price is protected, it allows customers more choice, and customers are moving away from brands just as quick as they move to them when one brand adopts a modern day strategy and one doesn't. I wish we could have a more impactful conversation with key brands. I think that will come as OnBuy's credibility increases in the market. We're still a junior, we're still a baby in the market. We might be doing hundreds of millions in sales, but we're still a baby in this space. And I think once we start to hit that larger volume over the next few years, we can have some much more meaningful discussions with key brands to say, hey, you can sell through OnBuy. We can work together and reach customers. Try and remove the dependency on some of the monopoly brands that are out there.
It's incremental, and the cashback means that doesn't need to be discounting. There should be a compelling story there. Yeah. What's your most controversial prediction for the future of retail?
Do you mean e-tail or or online only, or is it an interesting question?
It is. I'm open to either answer. What comes to mind?
Well, a lot of people say retail is dead. I don't think it is. I think that it's turning into more of an experience. Yeah, especially since COVID, people want to go out, and certain things they want to buy in person for the experience. And I think eateries and wineries and those kind of things are connecting now very closely to retail. Sorry, you go into Selfridges in Manchester, Selfridges in London, you're gonna find San Carlo, you're going to find restaurants, wine bars inside the shopping malls, inside this experience more than ever before, because I think that retail is changing. I think e-tail is, or at least I can only really talk about marketplace from my point of view. I think there's a lot of consolidation that's going to happen in this space. I think the market is AI heavy at the moment, and I think everybody thinks everyone's going to be shopping on ChatGPT. I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think that AI technology is going to come in to marketplaces to assist customers to find the right things, but ChatGPT is more of a tool for how to process data and discover.
Hmm.
But ChatGPT is going to bite people when they move to this affiliate approach that they're moving to now, because then they're not going to have every retailer. And all of a sudden, the value that customers think that they're getting from LLMs like ChatGPT, where they feel it's scanning the whole market, it's not going to be the whole market. It's only
Right.
going to be the market where the retailers have given them the feeds and are paying the commission. Then it'll turn
Right.
into a
Yeah.
revenue-driven business that they want the highest commissions, and this is where it gets muddy. It gets very muddy, and I think the only way to unmuddy that is to connect marketplaces with big inventories like OnBuy to LLMs, so that customers can say, "Look, I just want some marathon shoes. I'm a size 9, blah 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 blah," and it's going to give you those products. And that's what we're moving into. That's the space that we're trying to play now. Is get ready so that customers don't need to let go of e-commerce. They still want to browse. They still want to discover. You're not going to get that in ChatGPT. You need to be specific. So these businesses have their place when someone knows specifically what they want to buy. But my
Yeah.
prediction is that they're not going to take over the way the media is saying that they will.
Yeah.
It's perfect for VCs and PEs right now to make some money, but
Yeah.
it's the next bubble, right? And we all know that. We can see that, and there's only going to be a few left standing at the end of it.
So this is a call for LLMs. Now is the time to plug into OnBuy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're doing our own
No.
AI LLM type technology right now, so customers can type what they're looking for and use expression, and that's where customers are
That's
going
cool.
to play. And I think that people who think that you can just type into ChatGPT, give me those things, that gives you 5 things. How do all retailers in the world deal with that? How do you put real value in front of a customer when we're going to give them five
Mm.
things? It doesn't work. And how do you cross sell? And how do you get customers to explore? And is that a good shopping experience, or is that a functional shopping experience? This is a big, big market. There is definitely billions and billions of dollars for functional shopping, but you're not going to replace inspirational shopping that way.
And Kaz, what's your craziest story from building OnBuy, acquiring Comet, working in retail generally so far?
Mhm. Oh, with some time, I probably could have come with some interesting stories, but I think for me, it's watching how you can, when we were when we were raising money and we were really kicking off, is how fast you can be not interesting to the market, to being people throwing investment opportunities at you.
Yeah.
And then flips around when the market shifts, and vice versa in this way. I think for me, that was something I'd never been introduced to. And although it might not be retail specific, it's more on-buy
Yeah.
specific, how you can go from being a nothing to a something, or start to, and all of a sudden everyone wants to invest in you. I remember this time in early 22, I think it was, we opened up a £10 million investment round for the business to get us to the next step, and we raised 20 million in no time.
Mm.
And we had another 15 million debt on the table as well, and we actually closed a round that was 35 million. Um, with relative ease, and then we shut down the debt because we didn't need it. So we actually gave 15 million back, and it was quite an interesting period, I think. And it just goes to show you how retail could be sexy, not sexy, and just go on these waves. And I think for us right now, retail not being sexy, it's not a good market to be in right now. That's what the
Mm.
VCs, the PEs say. But it's
Hmm.
fascinating. I love it because this is the perfect time to grow a business, because no one's throwing money into the market.
Yep.
So
You're the
for us,
one.
we're exploiting that. We're going for it. And by the time everyone realizes that e-commerce is here to stay, well, we'll be very well solidified in this space, and no one's thrown hundreds of millions at competitors to take that away from us. So, yeah, that's been one of the most exciting parts of the journey, and I think we we love the timing of it.
Kaz, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's it for today's episode of Retail is Detail. This episode was brought to you by Loxa, the Klarna for insurance, protecting every retail customer everywhere. We support retailers in offering product protection on all major platforms, online and in-store, on all insurable categories. Visit loxacover.com to find out more. You can catch previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or at retailersdetailpodcast.com. I've been your host, Jamie Hamer. Thanks for listening, and see you next Monday.